Hello, my Bill 1000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, hope it gets better from here. Oh, we are back with a new MrBallen video. This one's a little bit longer, too. I'm excited. All right, this one is titled Neighborhood Killer Does the Unthinkable, Mature Audiences Only. Well, we can't watch this because I'm not mature enough. Go ahead and say. I am quite immature. Yes. All right. I'm excited. Let's go ahead and get into today's story. Go ahead, turn the lights down low, put on something comfy, cup with something special. Let's try to act older than what we actually are. That way we are allowed to watch this video. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Say something stupid. They're gonna kick me out of here. Yep.
Stories typically have really big plot twists at the end, and today's story is no different. However, the plot twist today is so unexpected, so abrupt, so shocking, so horrifying that I thought it would be interesting if you all tried to guess the ending as you're watching it, and you put your guesses in the comments section, and then we'll see if anybody comes even remotely close to what the ending actually is.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna make all kinds of guesses. Oh, shit.
To be honest, I don't think anybody is going to guess this one. But
Challenge accepted.
before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, please change the fourth song on the like button's sleep playlist to the loudest heavy metal death music you can possibly find. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay?
That'd do it. That'd wake me the fuck up.
Let's get into today's story.
I'm probably scared of the shit out of me. All right. My first guess is the butterfly. No one ever expects the butterfly. It was the butterfly. First guess.
In the late summer of 1930, Raphael Pansardi and his wife Leonarda Cianciulli moved with their 4 young kids to a little town.
That's Chanchuli. I would have never got that out of that name. Leonarda Cianciulli. That's what I would have got. Cianciulli. Cianciulli. Mrs. Ciulli. That's what I'm not. I swear I am smart.
Town in northern Italy called Correggio. A terrible earthquake had destroyed
Don't quote me.
the family's previous village and killed nearly all of their neighbors. And so this family was feeling very lucky to be alive, but when they arrived in Correggio, they really had nothing and were hoping that, the people of this town will just be very welcoming and generous and kind of help them
Yeah, because that's how people are. Helpful, generous.
get set up again. And the people of this town did exactly that.
Okay, never mind.
Correggio was this beautiful place inside of a fertile valley where people lived in these cottages surrounded by rice fields and mulberry trees. And the people who lived there
It's gorgeous. Look at the puppy. Look at the puppy. Ah. That is a beautiful land, though. I know, I like it.
were very tight-knit and looked after each other and cooked for each other and had parties together. I mean, this was a real community. And so when Raphael and Leonarda arrived,
That sounds unbelievable. It was the neighbors. The neighbors did it. I'm changing my answer. It was the neighbors. It was too friendly. It was like that movie. What was it called? Neighbors? Or they kill people.
The townspeople immediately found them this cute little cottage by a stream with a whitewashed front door and a beautiful stone hearth for cooking, and there was an attached storefront on this cottage that they were giving them. And then on top of that, once the family had moved in, the family's new neighbors helped get Raphael a job, and they also helped Leonarda set up the attached storefront that was part of their cottage so she could sell her homemade soap bars out of this shop. And so very quickly, the family just completely fell in love with Correggio.
That sounds amazing. They're all gonna die. I'm not kidding, but they are. They're gonna die horrifically. I placed money on it.
Especially 36-year-old Leonarda. Losing her home and her previous neighbors in that terrible earthquake had been a tragedy on epic scale, but it was far from the first tragedy that Leonarda had been forced to live through. Leonarda had been born into poverty. Her mother had actually come from a very wealthy family, but they had cut Leonarda's mom off when she became pregnant with...
She got pregnant when she wasn't supposed to, huh?
Leonarda. And so when Leonarda's mom gave birth to her, she blamed Leonarda for their poverty and all of their problems, and so beat her relentlessly.
Because it's the baby's fault she spreaded it in her legs. If you didn't know, now you know. Now, life lesson number 1 from Bill 5000, Bill 5000 Incorporated. Mothers, it is not your fault. It's the baby.
And then on top of that, Leonarda's father died when she was very young, and so she was stuck at home being abused constantly by her mother. When Leonarda was 21, she met...
I mean, I wouldn't touch that baby. Because if that baby controlled her vagina from the future, that's a powerful fucking baby. It's like, man, I could be born in like 1803, but you know, I'm really feeling 1802. Well, I'll be seeing y'all in about 9 months. That's a strong baby.
Raphael and fell in love with him, and he was a very kind and gentle man. He really made a very strong first impression on anyone who met him. But when Leonarda went to her mother and introduced Raphael to her and said, "I'm going to marry this man, I love him," her mother flew into a rage and then literally cursed Leonarda. She actually out loud muttered the spell and then told Leonarda that because of the spell, Leonarda would have evil following her forever. Now, of course, Leonarda was very used to her mother's terrible...
I'm sorry. It's not funny. But he's like, she was used to, baby, are you okay? I heard what your mom said. Man, yeah, I heard what she said at my 8th birthday, bro. Shit, she's in a good mood today.
behavior, and so she did not actually think she was at risk of this curse affecting her life in any way. But not long after actually marrying Raphael, Leonarda began to see evidence that this curse might actually be real. It started with Leonarda having these sudden fits of seizures for no particular reason, and then Leonarda, every time she got pregnant, she would miscarry and lose the baby. And so feeling really sad and desperate because all she wanted was a family, Leonarda actually went to a fortune teller in hopes that they would tell her that in the future, her life got better, not worse, which to Leonarda meant, you know, the curse
It was like, oh, you're fucked.
was not real if my life improves. But after this fortune teller took Leonarda's hands and studied her palms, she looked up at Leonarda and gave her grave news. She said,
"You're fucked. You're probably not gonna make just." That's all I can tell you. Just.
Leonarda, you're going to have living children, but they're all going to die young. And I see a prison and an insane asylum in your future. This experience totally...
Like at the same time? Like, is she okay? Is she gonna go to prison for, like, say killing someone? Not saying she is, but say she goes to prison for killing someone, and then they're like, "Oh, she's too crazy to go to prison. Let's put her in the crazy house." Is it like one of those situations, or is it like what she does so fucked up that they're like, "No, you know that prison we have for crazy people, put her ass in there." It does. It sound. It's there's
shocked Leonarda and confirmed for her that her mother's curse must be real. And sure enough, over the following years, Leonarda and Raphael would go on to have 14 living children, and 10 of them would die.
It's because they have fucking 14. They could only afford 4. It wasn't a curse. It was poor.
When they were babies or toddlers. And so by the time Leonarda had arrived in Correggio with her family in 1930, she was absolutely petrified that her last 4 precious children would die because of this curse. And so in order to keep...
I mean, the way her luck's going there, that's plausible. It's plausible. I mean, and if she's that worried about it, I wouldn't be making soap. Because I'm pretty sure, like, lye goes in soap, and lye can kill people.
her kids safe,
No
she
lie.
basically never let them out of her sight, and then she also made sure they always adhered to these strange rules and beliefs that Leonarda had come up with about good and evil that were designed to somehow protect the kids.
Serious talk. Starting to sound a little culty to me. I'm just saying. Just saying. Starting to sound a little culty.
From this curse. But the incredible show of generosity and support and kindness that Leonarda and her family had experienced when they arrived in Correggio had really done something to Leonarda. In fact, it really kind of changed the way she viewed the world. Suddenly, she was less concerned with this curse and how to protect her family from it, and instead, she was just kind of content. She felt safe. She felt happy. The women in the town loved Leonarda and always came by the house to say hi to her and eat some of the amazing tea cakes that she would make. And also Leonarda had become best friends with this woman named Virginia, who was a former opera singer from Milan, who was very elegant and beautiful. And every time she went to a dinner party, she would invite Leonarda. And also Leonarda and her family were becoming financially stable really for the first time ever. Leonarda's soap shop that she ran out of their cottage was really successful. People came from all around to buy her soaps because nobody could make them like she could. And Raphael's job as a clerk was very steady.
Why is her soap so special?
And he too was becoming well respected in town. And so because of how well this transition to Correggio had been, at some point
Shit, I want to go to Correggio.
Leonarda made a promise both to herself and to the universe that instead of focusing all of her time and energy on this curse, which had plagued her whole life, instead she was going to focus on helping the people of Correggio any way she could because they had done so much for her. And that is exactly what Leonarda did, but in a kind of ironic way. Because of the fear Leonarda had for her mother's curse, she had gone to that fortune teller many years ago. And even though the news she got when she saw the fortune teller was horrible, Leonarda had left that experience kind of fascinated with the art of fortune telling and magic and sorcery. It just really appealed to her. And so now that Leonarda was running this out of her house, there were all these people coming from far and wide that would ask to barter for her soaps. Bartering is like trading one item for another item versus paying for something outright with money. And so Leonarda began.
So, basically, what he's saying is she's raking up a bunch of credit card debt. Credit cards, I'm telling you, the evil. The evil. And this was before the credit cards was even credit cards. This is just a bartering system. They just come take your kneecaps and your horse. It was awful.
Bartering with these travelers whenever they had books about fortune telling, about magic, about sorcery, about how to make potions, about the occult. And after reading through all of these books and learning as much as she could, Leonarda, in addition to selling her soaps, began offering fortune telling services to the people of Correggio. And it would turn out she was really good at predicting the future, to the point where people in town basically began going to her for all kinds of advice. She helped women find love.
I'm not saying fortune telling is boo. I'm not saying it's real. I'm not saying it's fake. Fortune tellers can tell the fortune they'd all be rich. Just saying. It seems to me like what's going to happen is she's going to give someone some advice. It's going to be bad advice. Something bad's going to happen. They're going to murder. Guess number, I don't know.
She told farmers what crops to plant. She created these.
Oh yeah, someone's got a fucked up crop because she gave them the bad advice, and they're going to kill this poor girl. Fortune tellers.
Charm bags for people and told them they would protect them. She also began creating these herb potions for people when they got sick. It actually got to the point where people trusted her so much that when they got sick, they didn't even go to the doctor. They just went to her. And so
the doctors are going to kill her. Yep. Big business. They'll come right in. Hand her.
Very quickly, Leonarda felt very proud of the fact that she had lived up to the promise she had made both
medicine woman
to herself and to the universe to always help the people of Correggio at every turn. But more than that, Leonarda was starting to think that this newfound sense of purpose and happiness she was getting in helping the people of Correggio through her various services had finally broken her mother's curse.
Yeah.
By 1939, Leonarda and her family had been living in Correggio very happily for almost 10 years, and at the time, Leonarda's oldest son, Giuseppe, was 17 years old. Giuseppe was tall, he was handsome, he had dark hair, he had dark eyes, and
sounds like a Giuseppe. Close your eyes and picture what a Giuseppe would look like. That's what a Giuseppe would look like. Giuseppe.
All the girls loved him. And Giuseppe and Leonarda
it was Giuseppe.
Had always had a very close relationship. Every day, Giuseppe would come home and he and his mom would sit in the kitchen and they would chat for a while and eat some of her tea cakes. But now, in 1939, when Giuseppe was 17, he started to act a little bit different. He would come home and instead of going into the kitchen to sit with Leonarda, he would just go straight to his room and shut the door. And when Leonarda or Raphael would ask him, hey, is everything okay? Giuseppe would get very defensive and say he was fine and to please just leave me alone.
Yeah, he had a lingerie catalog in that room as well was going on. Boy's 17 years old. We all knew what was going on in that room behind that closed door.
But to Leonarda, it seemed really obvious that her son was not fine, and she thought,
give him like 10, 15 minutes. He'd be fine. He'd be fine.
Maybe he has some sort of secret he's keeping.
Come out there with a smile on his face, ready to eat some spaghetti. He'll be fine.
And that's what's making him act this way. He's hurting on the inside, but he can't share it with the world. But Leonarda had no
I mean, he probably was hurting on the inside. I'm sure he really wanted to share it with the world. God, this is taking horrible turn.
idea what this secret might be. And then one day, late that same year, Leonardo was walking through town when one of her neighbors came up to her and said, "Hey, are you aware that your son Giuseppe has signed up for the military and he's leaving for training in just a few months?" Leonardo had not heard about this. People were talking a lot about World War II, which had just started around this time, but Leonardo had never considered that her precious son would go off to fight in that war. But now Leonardo realized that Giuseppe's recent strange behavior suddenly made sense. This was the secret he was keeping. He had joined the military and he hadn't told his family. Leonardo turned around and went straight home. She went right into her bedroom, shut the door, and she just sobbed. To her, it felt like her mother's curse was back, and now her precious son was going to go
off to war and get murdered by a bullet. Oh, this lady. You got Yaya now. You can fight your mommy's magic with your own.
off into the war, and he was going to die, unless she found a way to combat this evil that was now following her again.
Fight her curse with your curse. Battle of the curses. Like some pick of destiny shit. Commercial. Y'all ready? I'm ready. Let's do it.
Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. Growing up, I was always encouraged to speak up if I was feeling down or sad, and so as a kid, talking about my feelings was really easy. But fast forward to 2017, when I was in my late 20s and suffering for the first time from a severe bout of depression, it was like I knew what I was supposed to do, ask for help, but I just couldn't do it. It was like I was afraid if I told someone what my issues were, it would scare them, or worse, it would make them feel bad too. Luckily, my wife and my family encouraged me to go seek out a therapist, and honestly, that totally changed my life. But the point I'm trying to make here is that because of my upbringing, I should have been the first person in line for therapy right when I started struggling in 2017. But that's just not how life works. Oftentimes, the way we think we will act during a crisis is very different from how we actually act during a real crisis. So if you are struggling right now with your own personal crisis and you're hiding it from other people, you haven't asked for help yet, stop, take a deep breath, and do what I did. Consider therapy. And one of the easiest entry points into therapy is BetterHelp, because it's a world-class therapy service that is 100% online, which means you don't have to physically go into a doctor's office and awkwardly wait for your big first meeting with a therapist. Instead, you can get the help you need from the comfort of your home. Get matched with a BetterHelp therapist after filling out a quick survey, and then you can choose how you want to communicate with your therapist, whether that's through chat or text or phone call or video call or some combination of all of them. Also, you can switch your therapist at any time for free. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/MrBallen. I've also linked them in the description below. Okay, back to the story.
He also has Seagull on. Amazing support group.
For the next several days, Leonardo did not open up her soap shop, she didn't come downstairs, she just stayed locked in her bedroom and read through all of her books about magic and sorcery and the occult, looking for some sort of solution for how to fight this curse. And finally, she figured out what she had to do. She read that if she gave something beautiful to the universe would reward her. And in Leonardo's mind, that reward would be sparing her son. And so Leonardo decided that the most beautiful thing she could offer the universe would be to help the people of Correggio, which she was already doing, but in her mind, she thought she could really ramp up her efforts and really try to change people's lives. And she thought if she could do that, the universe was sure to notice and it would save her son's life. Leonardo decided that the first person she...
That seems 100% logical. If you want good things to happen to you because of the universe, What you should do in the name of the universe is meddle and tamper in people's lives and classify it as making their lives better and hope everything turns out okay. It's 100% logical. Damn.
She would really go above and beyond to help inside of Correggio was a woman named Faustina. Faustina, who was in her 70s, was desperate to get married, but to many people in town, including Leonarda, she seemed kind of beyond help. She was totally antisocial, she was awkward, and just kind of given her age, it seemed like marriage was just not in the cards for her. But this is where Leonarda thought she could step in and change everything for Faustina. She would find her a husband. So Leonarda reached out to Faustina and told her about a friend of hers, a man who lived in a city to the north, who was also alone in his old age and who was likely looking for marriage, and she could set them up if Faustina was interested. And so Faustina was immediately interested and wanted to meet this guy, but Leonarda did tell her that, this guy, the reason he's not married is he's kind of difficult to be around. He's kind of a jerk, but he's got a wonderful heart. He means well. I think he'd be a great fit for you. And so again, Faustina's like, great, I want to meet him. I want to marry him. I'm ready. And then finally, the day came when
That's faster than 30 Day Fiance, ain't it? Shit. I don't give a damn. We're soulmates. I don't even know his name. Don't even give a fuck. We soulmates.
Faustina actually went to this other town and met this guy in person, and they fell in love. And Faustina just moved right in with him. And before long, she was sending happy postcards back to Correggio, telling everyone about how happy she was and how thankful she was for Leonarda's help in setting them up. And so Leonarda was obviously thrilled, not only for her friend's happiness, but also it really felt like she had checked the box in terms of really going above and beyond to help someone in Correggio in an effort to get the universe to spare her son. But her son was still a couple months away from leaving for training, and Leonarda, she's very superstitious, and she's thinking, okay, I don't know if that was enough.
So I'm just going to keep doing this for 2 months until he goes, and then I'm just going to do it until he comes back. Guaranteed. Oh no. I know we're supposed to be guessing on who did what, but I don't even know what's going on anymore. I say it could be anyone at any time, at anywhere. What was it last? The doctor? Okay. It's the son. He's gonna kill everyone and go into the military. Or it's the lady that she married off. Maybe dude turned out to be a raging dick and she's like, no, can't handle it no more. Killed him, then went there and killed them.
To get the universe to save my son. And so I need to find somebody else I can help. So in September of 1940, Leonarda began.
This seems like a lot of work. Can't she just sacrifice someone and save everyone some time and effort? She's going through. She's doing too much, y'all. She's doing too much.
Her next good deed project
I'm exhausted.
with another woman in town. She was a widow in her 50s named Francesca.
Sacrifice the widow.
She had worked as a teacher, but when her husband got sick, she quit her job, and then when her husband ultimately died, she was left with nothing. So Leonarda reached out to Francesca and told her that she, Leonarda, would be willing to reach out to her own mother's rich family to see if maybe they had a job they could finesse for Francesca. Now, of course, Leonarda was not excited about talking to her mother's family, who had disowned her mother and had shown no interest in Leonarda, but Leonarda wanted to do this for Francesca and for the sake of her son and getting the universe to notice what she was doing. And so sure enough, Leonarda would reach out to her mother's family, and they were remarkably open to the idea, and they got a job for Francesca in Switzerland. And so eventually Francesca jetted off to Switzerland, and then a couple of days later she was sending postcards back to Correggio saying how happy she was and how thankful she was for Leonarda's help. And so again, Leonarda was so happy about this outcome, both because she cared about Francesca and also
It was Leonardo the whole time. This is what's happening. This is what's going on. This is where my brain is taking me now. Stick with me now. Stick with me. She's doing all this to make everyone think she's doing really good, right? well, what if she's not actually able to do these things? So what she's doing is taking these people, killing them, and then sending postcards back herself, telling everyone, "Hey, bro, it's good." You know, like it was real good. I had this pizza the other day. It had actual pepperonis on it. I ain't never seen nothing like it. It was round and all kinds of shit. Yeah, that's what's happening.
Because this was yet another kind of check in the box of her good deeds that the universe was going to notice that in turn would save her son. But again, after Francesca didn't need any more help, Leonarda found herself looking at her son, who was getting closer and closer to leaving for training, and she would think to herself, have I done enough to protect him? Have I really stopped this curse from killing him after he leaves? And Leonarda eventually decided that no, she had not done enough. She needed to do at least one more really big good deed for someone in this
Threes.
town. And who better to help?
Rule of threes. I mean, come on now. We all know rule of threes. It applies to fucking everything.
Than her best friend, Virginia, the former opera singer.
Fucking Virginia. Come on down, sing it, lady.
Leonarda knew from all her talks with Virginia that Virginia really missed living in the big city and going to the opera house. And so Leonarda reached out to Virginia and said, you know
Bought
what?
her an
I
opera
can
house.
reach out to my mother.
Her mom's family owns an opera house that they don't use anymore, and they can give it to you. You can go visit it any damn time you want. You can live there. And then she moved away and started living in the opera house, but I bet she wrote them postcards.
Mother's rich family, and maybe they can find a job for you in a big city if you're interested. And so Virginia was like, wow, yes, I would love that. That's an amazing opportunity. And so Leonarda again would contact her mother's rich family, and again, they came through, finding this job as a social planner for this very rich guy in Florence, Italy, who often
I don't know if you've seen it or not.
again, they came through, finding this job as a social planner for this very rich guy in Florence, Italy, who often funded plays and operas. And so this job was perfect for Virginia. When Leonarda told Virginia about this opportunity, Virginia cried tears of joy. After packing up all of her things, Virginia made a stop at Leonarda's house to say goodbye and thank you, and the two women would hug and laugh and cry, they would drink wine together, and then finally, when it was time for Virginia to go, even though Leonarda was very sad, she was also quite happy, because finally she felt like this
Because it was her third murder victim and she was finally done with her sick, deranged plan.
good deed was enough to get the universe to spare her son. However, Leonarda, being a very superstitious person, did have one more little thing she wanted to do with Giuseppe before he left for the military. And this little thing was her, Leonarda, bathing her son, her 18-year-old son, with a particular bar of
Not a real photo of Leonardo and Giuseppe. Thank God for that, because I'm pretty sure that is a beard.
soap, and then she also wanted to feed him a special kind of tea cake that she was going to make. The soap and the tea cake had these special herbs and ingredients and different things she had put.
He's gonna die. She's gonna kill him. The soap has something in it and it absorbs into the skin, then he eats the special food and it's got something in it that absorbs and then they combine and he explodes or some bullshit. It's witchcraft. We don't know.
Pulled from her books of magic and the occult, and they would kind of form like a protective barrier both outside and inside of Giuseppe. So, on the same night that Virginia headed off to
I hit my elbow. Oh, that fucking hurt. He's gonna explode. There ain't gonna be nothing left to protect.
Florence, when Giuseppe came home, Leonarda approached him and said, I want to give you this bath and I want to feed you these tea cakes. And Giuseppe was not remotely enthused at the idea of having his mom bathe him. He's 18. But he knew she was highly superstitious, she seemed pretty emotional about this, and it just seemed like it was extremely important.
I love my mom. I do. I love my mom to death. Give a damn how superstitious she is. She's not giving me a bath. No, no, no. That would be the worst bath ever. No.
to her, and so he said okay. And so Leonardo washed her son with this special kind of magic soap, and then she also gave him the tea cake.
Murder soaping, murder cake.
And then afterward, even though Giuseppe was really annoyed by what he had just been asked to do, Leonardo was so happy she was practically floating. She felt like she had done everything
She's practically floating. So what's happening is Giuseppe's tripping balls from slowly dying from the poison that she bathed him in and fed him.
she could possibly do, and now she could just relax because her son was safe. But soon, Leonardo would learn that that was not actually true. A few days after giving her son the magical last bath and magical tea cakes, the police showed up at the front door of Leonardo's house. And when she opened the door and saw the police, she asked what was going on, and the police would say to her, hey, the 3 women that you supposedly helped that left town recently, they've all been reported missing by their families. They don't know where they are. And so Leonardo, she was totally shocked by this. And she said, no, that's not possible. I write to them all the time. I get postcards that come in very regularly from all of them. And then Leonardo went and got the postcards and showed the police, like, look, I'm talking to them. How could they possibly be missing? And so the police, they would look at these letters and they would agree with Leonardo that it is pretty strange that she'd be getting these very authentic seeming letters from these women if these women were also missing. And so eventually the police would leave and they would tell Leonardo that they would be in touch if they needed anything. And then over the next couple of days, Leonardo was very concerned about these 3 women, but she received numerous postcards.
I'm pretty sure I was fucking right. Unless it was the son. Where's the dad? Where's the dad in all this? You think it's the dad? Could it be the dad? Would it be the dad? Could it be the dad? The dad's like, oh no. This has got to happen or my life is going to be fucked. She won't be able to live with herself. I ain't going to be able to live with her. No one's going to be able to live with her. This has got to happen. And he went through and he killed them all. And hid the bodies. And started writing her letters. Or it was the son himself, and that's why he was going to the military to get the fuck away. That way, maybe he wouldn't get caught.
From these women over those several days, and all of these postcards were totally normal seeming, and so Leonardo was fairly confident that whatever was going on with the police had to have been a mix-up, and she wouldn't be hearing from them again. But a couple of weeks later, the police did come back to Leonardo's house, except this time they didn't knock, they just barged right in. After the police had spoken with Leonardo that first time, they did some digging on these letters that she was receiving, and they managed to trace them all back to their start point. And it turned out all of these letters from all 3 of these women were originating from one place. It was this little town to the north of Correggio. And when police went to this little town, they discovered that these letters that were starting in this little town were all being mailed by the same person. And they got a physical description of this person who apparently was pretending to be these 3 women. And the description was of a tall, handsome young man with dark hair and dark eyes. It was Giuseppe. After the police barred...
That was one of my guesses. It was the boy. The boy did it. That's why he was going into the military.
Into Leonardo's house, they went straight to Giuseppe's room where they accused him of murdering those 3 women, and then they hauled him out of the house and brought him to the station to question him about where he dumped the bodies. When the last police officer left Leonardo's house, Leonardo walked outside and just stood there wondering what she was going to do. It was like she had done everything in her power to protect her son from this curse, but somehow this curse she knew had done this to her son. And so now she knew there was only one thing she could do. Without saying anything to her husband, she went inside, she got her things, and she began making her way to the police station. At this point in her life, Leonarda looked much older than her actual age of 46. She had very gray hair, her face was very wrinkled, and she was stooped over, and she was always...
She had a hard one. She had a hard one, boys. Poor thing.
Is carrying these charm bags and magical potions and little stick figures that she claimed protected her family. And so her overall appearance when she wandered into the police station was that
of a crazy person.
That of a very frail old woman who was also very strange. And so Leonarda hobbled her way up to...
And then she takes off her coat and she's got like a 6-pack, 2 machetes, and she just starts going through killing people, and she breaks her son out.
To the front desk, and in a trembling voice, she asked the attendant if she could speak to the detective who was working on her son's case. And then a moment later, she was led into an interview room where she was told to wait. And then a little while later, the lead detective walked into the room. He sat down across the table from Leonarda and he said, "What can I do for you?" And immediately Leonarda said, "My son, Giuseppe, is innocent." And the detective, when he heard this, he was not remotely surprised. In fact, this is fully what he expected this conversation was going to be. He knew Leonarda loved her son very much, and of course she was going to say he was innocent. This is what parents typically did in cases like this, but the detective...
I wouldn't. I'd be like, he probably did. What'd you say he did? I mean, but look at him. He's derpy. Just look at his face. That'd been my dad.
Decided he wouldn't try to stop her. He would just let this very distraught mother kind of talk for a bit. He would tell her that he would follow up on whatever she was saying, and then he would drive her back home. But this
That's sweet. Because most would be like, "Bitch, shut the fuck up. Your son's guilty. He's murderer." This one was like, "Man, look, we'll look into it. You mind if we take you home, man?" Yeah, yep, I know. No, we don't think your son's a big piece of shit at all. No, we don't. No.
detective was not expecting the things that would come out of Leonarda's mouth over the next couple of hours. In fact, her story about why Giuseppe was innocent was so shocking and so bizarre that the detective outright said, "I don't believe you. I don't believe this. This can't be true." And then other officers were called in to listen to her story to see if they believed it. And they too said, "This doesn't seem real." But the police would follow up on the details she gave, and it all checked out. It would turn out, back in late 1939, on the day that Faustina, the first woman that Leonarda pledged to help in order to get the universe to save her son, when Faustina was set to go north and meet her future husband, Faustina stopped by Leonarda's house to say bye. And when she was in Leonarda's house, something very unexpected happened. When Faustina walked into Leonarda's kitchen where Leonarda was, Faustina was so excited about meeting her potential future husband that her hands were shaking and she was smiling ear to ear. And so Leonarda said to Faustina, "Hey, you need to calm down." And so she handed Faustina a glass of wine. And so Faustina took the wine and she had a couple of sips of wine. And right away, Faustina started feeling dizzy. And before long, she was grabbing the table just to keep from falling over. It would turn out the wine was poisoned by Leonarda. And so Faustina, she's kind of looking up at Leonarda. And Leonarda is looking down at her. And she's got an axe in one of her.
So I was right there on one of the... I see. That's why you just start throwing out guesses. Just like the most... Okay, I know a lot of you are out there like, "Man, Bill, why are you saying such stupid shit?" This was one of my choices too. I said she was so into believing her own bullshit that she ended up killing them.
Her hands. And she says to Faustina, "I'm so sorry." And then she winds up and she strikes Faustina in the chest with the axe and lodges it in her chest. And so she lets go of it, expecting Faustina to die. She doesn't. Faustina's just standing there with an axe in her chest. And so Leonarda grabbed the handle of the axe, she pulled it out of her chest, and then began wailing on her head over and over and over again until Faustina did fall to the ground.
What the shit? Oh god. Sorry. Get that.
Dead. Then Leonarda lit a fire under her big metal pot on the stove, and then she cut Faustina's body into 9 pieces. She drained the blood out of the body into a bucket, and then she chucked those 9 pieces into the pot on the stove and began to mix them with caustic soda, which is a powerful dissolving agent that's used to make soap. And then she boiled the ingredients, her body parts and this caustic soda, for hours. Faustina's body slowly turned into this horrible black mush inside of this pot, and Leonarda was watching this the whole time, and she just had a look of total disappointment as this was happening. And then at some point, she just took the pot off the stove and dumped the ingredients, Faustina's body, down the septic tank, and then Leonarda waited for Faustina's blood that she had dumped out to coagulate, which means it became semi-solid, and then she heated it up in the oven and then ground it into flour. And she would use that flour to make tea cakes, which she fed to her friends the next day, as well as her son, Giuseppe. Leonarda also asked her son to mail some letters for her from the little town to the north where Faustina had supposedly gone. These letters, of course, were written by Leonarda, pretending to be Faustina to give the impression that she was still alive and well. And Giuseppe, when he was told to go mail these letters, didn't think anything of it. He was used to doing errands for his mom. Even though Leonarda basically got away with killing Faustina, her plan for Faustina had not really gone the way Leonarda had hoped. When she boiled Faustina's chopped up body parts and this caustic soda, they didn't really mix the way she wanted them to. Leonarda was convinced that the reason for this is because Faustina was too skinny, and so there wasn't enough fat on her body for the
Yeah, big bone bitch. Got you. It was the big booty book of witchcraftery.
mix to be perfect. So Leonarda had come up with another elaborate story, this time for another woman, Francesca, about that job in Switzerland she got through her mother's rich family. Of course, none of that was true, and when Francesca came by Leonarda's house to say goodbye to her, she was offered a glass of poisoned wine, and after she sipped from it, she became dizzy, and then Leonarda showed up with an axe and hacked Francesca to death. But again, when the body parts and the caustic soda were in the pot on the stove boiling together, they were still not coming together the way Leonarda wanted.
No, I mean,
And so again, Leonarda, with a look of disgust, just dumped the pot down the septic tank and wound up making tea cakes from Francesca's blood. Then the next day, she fed those tea cakes to her friends, as well as Giuseppe, and she also asked Giuseppe to send a few more letters from up north. These letters were, of course, from Francesca. Still feeling totally unsatisfied with how the last 2 killings had gone, Leonarda moved on to her third target, her best friend, Virginia. And this time, when Virginia came by
because Virginia was thick.
Leonarda's house to say goodbye, everything went to plan. Leonarda was able to poison Virginia, she killed her with the axe, she chopped her up, she put her in the pot, and this time, the 9 chunks of her body mixed beautifully with the caustic soda. And so after
Don't you need them big booties? Damn.
adding a few fine perfumes into the pot, Leonarda was finally able
The special fucking soap.
to create the thing that she had not been able to create with the other 2 women's bodies. And that was a beautiful, rich, creamy bar of soap. She also, again, made tea cakes from Virginia's blood. That night, when Giuseppe came home, Leonarda demanded that she be allowed to bathe him with her magic soap, i.e. the soap made from Virginia's body. And so she did that. She scrubbed him with Virginia's body soap. And then while she was doing that, she fed him the tea.
I don't like it. Don't fucking like none of it. Oh, see, I told you. You should have just been like, fuck you, mom. It ain't fucking happening.
Cakes that were made from Virginia's blood. It would turn
Oh!
out Leonarda did in fact believe that in order to save her son from this curse, she would need to give something beautiful to the universe. And at first, she really had believed that the way to do that was by helping the people of Correggio above and beyond anything she had ever done before.
Which would be the good ending. Yeah, that's the good ending. We're not on the good ending. We're on the shit ending, Mr. Ballen. This is the shit ending. That means something went wrong.
But at some point during her interactions with Faustina, the first woman, Leonarda had decided that, you know what, that wasn't enough.
Murder. Murder's so beautiful.
She really needed to make sure that her son was going to be safe. And so the only way really that Leonarda could guarantee her son would be safe would be if she actually took a life and gave that back to the universe. That would save her son. The reason Leonarda wound up taking
Avengers. Soul for soul. Gotcha.
3 lives and not just 1 life
Damn.
is because she also
Oh, she loved her son that damn much.
decided that as an extra protective measure, she wanted to make sure that she actually bathed her son, literally, in the body parts and kind of essence of the life she had taken. And so that's where the idea of the soap came in. However, the first 2 women, their body parts didn't mix right.
Wasn't thick enough. Wasn't thick. Gotta have 4 C's up in that motherfucker. You know what I mean?
And so she couldn't turn them into soap. But then Virginia came along and her body did mix with the caustic soda. And so Leonarda was able to make her soap. She was able to bathe her son with Virginia's body and feed him Virginia's blood. And so in Leonarda's mind, she had done everything she could to protect her son at that point. Leonarda would ultimately be sentenced to 30 years in prison, as well as 3 years in an insane asylum, just as the fortune teller had predicted. Leonarda died in 1970 when she was 76 years old. As for her family, they fled Correggio, and 3 of her children changed their names and vanished. And her prized son, Giuseppe, who she had killed to protect, had gone on to join the military and he would go to war, and he either was killed in combat or simply changed his name and vanished as well. So that's going to do it. If you got something
So, let me get this straight. Crazy Coo Cracker Pants over there killed 3 people, turned them into cakes, and tried to turn them into soup, but only succeeded 1 time. So, 1 batch. Yeah, I don't know how many batches of soup you can get out of a person. I don't. And she only got 30 years. And then, what, 3 years in the crazy house? Nah, that motherfucker need to be gone forever. Giuseppe still either died or he's just like ghosted. Rest of the kids are like, nah, you ain't tying me back to that bullshit. I'm leaving, I'm moving, I'm changing my name. I have a feeling though, but honestly, I thought like her idea of protecting him from dying in war was going to be like to petrify him in place, and which would ultimately just kill him and like preserve his body to where like he wouldn't rot. That's where I thought it was going. But I had a feeling like I don't know. Mainly whenever he said that her mom's family wanted nothing to do with her mom because of her, families back then, they didn't just end up getting over shit. You're not just gonna call them up out of the blue one day, like everything's all fine and dandy, and they know who the fuck you are, and they actually care who the fuck you are, and be like, hey, I have a friend, and you're rich, give them a job. They're like, new phone, who this? I would. Nah, that was a good story though. Have me guessing. Oh, I liked it. I enjoyed it. This was fun. Thank you, Mr. Ball. We had a very entertaining experience today, and it is all because of you and your brilliance. All right. If y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I enjoyed making today's video, think about subscribing, hitting that thumbs up, ringing those bells, dinging those bells, doing whatever you do with bells. Do it all. If y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please leave a thumbs up if you're a fan of the spooky, scary, strange, deranged, weird ass people cakes. I mean, tasty cakes. Think about subscribing. I'm officially diabetic and I never want a cake again. Yeah. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Like, if you, how, why make cakes out of the first two and feed them to everyone if you can't bathe everyone? And I mean, if you wanted to bathe them and eat them, what was the point of the? That's just too much cake, bro. It's just too much cake.